question. Yes, Mr. Richards, please.
Have you got an update on our massage tables? Are they safe? Are they dry? Are they usable?
I have no idea, but I do have an update. I have no idea, but my very nice boss said just order more, and I already did. So, which I thought was kind of cool of them. They were like, don't wait, just buy them. They've been very kind of cool about that sort of stuff. So anyway, I put an order in yesterday for your tables. I'm afraid that probably means another week. Maybe the other ones maybe the building will be okay, and we'll get the other ones out before then. And if they're okay, I'll bring those up. But we have, if that's not the case, we have tables coming. We have tables coming. There, yes.
One question.
Yeah.
One of the senior students was talking about the tables, the hydraulic tables.
I know who. Yeah.
And I wondered, how do you get on a list if that's possible?
I don't know if it's possible, but send me an email, just like you did with other stuff, and I will put you on a list if they sell those hydraulic tables, and they're worth buying. If they sell those hydraulic tables off, you're more than welcome to, like, I've only had like 2 people tell me so far they want them, so send me an email. We've got, 20 tables there. The reason I'm a little bit doubting is not, I actually think the tables might be okay, and they still might scrap them and stuff. The question is, will they sell them off? It gets very weird when insurance is involved and stuff. But yes, if they will sell them off to the public, we will sell them off to our students first. And I have to say, a $2,500 table, probably more because we get a discount on them, that's fully hydraulic, would be a steal of a deal if you get it for, I don't know what they'd sell them for, but let's suppose it's $200. I would buy that in a heartbeat. I'd buy it for $500. Yeah, but by the way, sir, you want to have some place to put it where it's going to stay, because it takes 2 people to move them. They're not horribly heavy, but they're heavy. It takes 2 people to move them, yeah, and you don't want to move them around afterwards. But yeah, that'd be cool. I know, I would like one too. I really would. Sign me up too. Send me emails if you want to be on the list. And remember, guys, I have no idea. I'm just saying if they sell them, if they allow that, if that happens, I'll contact you first. There's a lot of ifs there, though. I love that. Yeah. They also might say the tables are fine and the building's fine and we're airing it out and we're coming back and whatever. So we'll see. We should know a lot more next week. Any other questions? Miss Hendrickson, please.
Oh, I just found this in the book, and I thought this was really interesting. This Journalis that says only about 5% of the population has.
Yeah.
I was wondering, are there any other muscles or bones that are most people don't have them, but some people do?
Yes, there's a few, and there's theories about why people have them. It just depends on how you look at stuff. Yes, there are some very strange ones. Your iliopsoas is a muscle kind of inside your stomach, and it's created by the iliacus and psoas major. And some people have a psoas major there because anytime you hear major anything, there's got to be a minor. Anytime you hear superior, there's got to be an inferior. But psoas major is called psoas major because some people have a psoas minor. Not everybody has a psoas minor. People with superior genetics like myself have a psoas minor. You guys probably don't. But no, it's a very minor muscle. It's kind of like the sternalis. It probably doesn't do a lot, so people kind of wonder what it's left over from. There's also some, and I don't remember the name. I was just reading an article about it like a year ago, and I forgot. There's some weird muscle that some men have, like in their thigh, and what's even more weird about it, it's a tiny muscle, but what's weird about it is they usually have it in like one leg and not the other. So there are some strange stuff, but these are all minor muscles, and I'm glad you brought it up because I won't be teaching about the sternalis or things like that. Right. I don't mean I'm opposed to it. I just don't actually normally study it myself. But yeah, there are some weird little strange things, and occasionally they are still discovering new muscles in the body. Obviously not big ones, but they discover little stuff. They're like, oh, we didn't know there was contractile tissue there, and you get a new muscle out of it kind of thing. So yeah, it is very weird. Yeah.
So hopefully that won't affect your massage if you're like, wait, what is this muscle here? Or
most of them you can't feel or find.
Oh, okay.
like even the sternalis is a very hard muscle to like feel underneath the fascia and all that kind of stuff. I have never experienced like working on somebody and being like, oh, you have a sternalis. And I don't even know, the Iliopsoas is inside people, so forget about finding that thing. This is stuff that shows up on MRIs and such. Yeah, interesting. But very cool. And I'm glad that you are reading your book for pleasure like a true nerd. Yes, I love that. Makes the best students, that's awesome. Anybody else? Mr. Richards.
She's had plenty of time while she's been sick. She's had loads of
Oh,
time.
so you just think she's lounging there while she's taking care of an 8-year-old and trying to form its young impressions of the world and take care of its heart and feed it and intellectually stimulate that child all while she's sick, and you think she's got extra time? Typical man. Typical.
It's hard enough to do my homework when I was sick.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I'm sure you don't have, I'm sure nobody here has extra time. So from what I've seen, none of us do, yeah. All right, anybody else? Any other questions? No? Okay. All right, let's, yeah, Miss Everson, please.
My apologies. I just had a quick question about externship.
Sure.
When we do our externship, are we still going to be doing online learning and going into lab as well? Or will we have to do one? Or is class basically canceled so that we could do our externship?
Yeah. If you do an externship, and I'm sorry for all the vagues, like if you do an externship, you don't come to class. There is no lecture, there's no lab. You go to another location. You go to a massage place on 32nd Street in Shea. There isn't one there. I'm just picking up, you go there 6 hours a day because you have to do 6 hours a day of school, right? So that is your school. You go there 6.5 hours a day because that's you got to put a lunch break in there. 4 days a week for 2 weeks. So you just go there instead. You do have one homework assignment every night, but I promise you this one's easy. It's a homework assignment every night called What Did I Learn Today? And all you do is write something in there you learned today in a fashion that it teaches the rest of the class something. It really could be 5 sentences. I don't want you to say something like, I learned people can be really hairy, because you will learn that. But I want you to say something like, I learned that when you have a really hairy client, if you apply lotion on them first and then use oil afterwards, it really helps to glide. Or I learned when you have a really upset client who's running late that it really helps to, say whatever. So we just want one thing that you can take away, and it's called What Did I Learn Today? And it goes into a group discussion in Canvas and everybody can see it. And you get 10 points for that, and that's it. That's it. And it really does take 5 minutes. And you comment on somebody else's. I think we asked you to comment on somebody else's. We're trying to make you read other people's comments, what they learned that day. But that's it. So you really, whether you're doing clinic or externship, it's physically demanding because you're doing massage usually during both those times, but that's it. There's not really any studying, there's not any homework, there's no lecture, that's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. It is awesome. And I like it too because it breaks up the pace of the class. So this is enjoyable. I love what we're doing here. But, after a couple months, you might be like, I would like a break from, Tapscott talking me through a TV. And you get to go do something else, and then you kind of come back, and it's just good. I like how it breaks stuff up. Yeah. Mr. Richards.
Do you pick the 4 days, or does the company pick the 4 days, or is it still Monday through Thursday?
We pick the 4 days. And they are Mondays through Thursday because that's what you guys are used to working. And we do not require you to do anything on Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. I think that's a lot of massage schools out there are like, oh, we do Monday through Thursday too, but then you find out their clinics and their externships are on weekends. And it's like, whoa, wait a second. So no, we stick to this Monday through Thursday schedule the entire time. If the employer can't accommodate that, we find another employer, basically. Now, they might reach out to you, Mr. Richards, and say, hey, instead of 9 to 3:30, could you do 10 to 4:30, or could you, and you might negotiate a little bit with them, and if it works out for both of you, we move forward. So, but it would still be Monday through Thursday for 2 weeks. That's basically it. This is a stupid point, but just so you know, it could be start on a Wednesday, go Wednesday, Thursday, then go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday next week, and then Monday, Tuesday the week after. It's still 2 weeks long, but I'm not saying it always starts on a Monday. But the point is it's 2 weeks, essentially your current school schedule. Essentially your current school schedule, yeah. Ms. Hendrickson.
Is the externship only in the last quarter or the last part of class, or is that at the end of every?
I'm laughing because you assume we know what we're doing. So we do know what we're doing, by the way. We very much know it. But the externship is something we started during COVID for the first time ever. We've only done 2 of them so far, and so we don't actually have like a we're always going to do it at this time kind of thing. And I've got very mixed feelings about them. Like, I think they're good, by the way, but I also really like our clinics, and students tell us they really like our clinics, get a lot of that too. So no, we don't have this planned thing. The only thing is planned is that we don't do either a clinic or an externship in the first class, because we want you to be
More efficient, proficient.
Yeah, and it's not even for the people we're sending you to. I don't care, because I tell them I tell them, like, hey, Miss Hendrickson is in her 3rd month of massage. Don't expect her to be amazing. Like, so they're prepared if you're green. Or Miss Hendrickson is in her 8th month of massage. She's about to graduate. I mean, we tell them that stuff. But I don't want to push you into a situation that we have not amply prepared you for. And I would hate for you to go in the thing and be like, I really, actually, we haven't even kind of gone over some of this stuff yet. Now you want me to do a full body massage, and you want me to, it'd be tricky. So you'll be ready by the time we do it, yeah. And by the way, there's also a real possibility that we will give you a choice, clinic or externship.
So you don't necessarily have to do an externship if you do clinics for every quarter.
Yeah, and the reason I'm saying that is because I could see value in both and an argument for both. And both can push you out of your comfort zone. And so I'm kind of okay with it just covers all the bases.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, again, things are a little up in the air right now, but if I had to guess, that might be kind of the go forward, which is, hey, which one do you want to do? Yeah. You just have to commit though, because we have to plan then, but yeah.
Okay.
And that, if we kept doing that, that meant you could pick one time, another one next time, whatever. You could all sorts of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Employers tend to prefer to take you guys closer to graduation, because what they're really hoping is that you walk in, you love the place, they love you, and then they find out you're graduating. And I've got employers that are dying for the students we have going out right now, because they're going to graduate in 2 weeks. And so they know that if they like them, at the end of their externship in 2 days they graduate. It's a great time to be like, hey, you should come work for us, and they snatch them up.
That's awesome.
And it's nice for them too, because they're already like, while I'm waiting on my license, they already kind of have their job processing. They're already sometimes they're getting paid already because somebody's having them do spa back work there, things like that. Miss Everson, please. Was that a mistake hand raise, Miss Everson?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to hit the.
Oh, it's all right.
The difference between the externship and the clinic is that in clinic we can actually work on the general public, and in the externship we can work on the therapists.
Yeah, but I would in the externship you could be working on the general public too, not their paying clients, but you could be working on front desk staff. You could be working on friends of the owner. I mean, their bodies. Like, you're working on the general public in a way, but in the externship you are more likely to be working on massage therapists. You will work on more massage therapists than you would in clinic, probably. So you might be getting more massage therapist kind of feedback, which sometimes is very helpful, because they'll be like, hey, you might want to try it this way or do this kind of thing. Yeah. So I guess clinic gives you more exposure working on massage therapists. I'm sorry, externship gives you more exposure working on massage therapists than clinic does. Although we have massage therapists coming to clinic too, because all of our alumni love coming back for massage. So they often come back to our clinics for that reason. And let me give you guys a little advanced warning too. Massage therapy is both a science and an art, and every single massage therapist out there has a strong opinion about how it should be done, and very few of us agree. And even as amazing as I think I am, it's just one way to approach a body. I've seen other equally and at very different ways to approach a body than my way. And so when people give you feedback, please listen to them, but remember it's got to work for you, and it's not the truth. It is their opinion, hopefully from experience, which is why it's worth listening to. And if you hear it from 2 people, then it's super worth listening to. But just, you're going to hear lots of stuff where you're going to be like, well, Tapscott said this, and Miss Waite said that, Miss Bauer said that. Not about anatomy, but about like, should you warm up the body first? Should you do this thing over here first? Should you, like, those are opinions. What's really important is to hear why we have those opinions and to see if they make sense for you. Yeah. So a lot of the information you're going to get from me is very much like get them on the table and start driving in there hard and get the body warmed up. I'm very old school and I don't like messing around, and I probably don't warm up the body enough, and I don't do a lot of the niceties, and you're lucky if I even ask you if you want to bolster, and that's not really necessarily good approach to massage. It's a great approach to therapeutic work, but there are lots of other approaches, so you'll be hearing lots of different stuff, and it's all quite valid, and I'm not just saying that to be politically correct. It's all worth listening to. You'll notice that more and more as we get deeper in the program. Anybody else? No? Cool. All right. Well, if stuff comes up, let me know. All right. Let's talk about terminology and cells and tissues and directional stuff in the body. Some of this will be a repeat of information. Just instead of coming from your trail guide, some of it's going to be coming from your massage therapy textbook. And that's a good thing. I like that we double up on stuff, that you hear it in 2 different ways or 3 different ways. But what we're trying to do is lay a real minimal foundation of biology so that when we go on to look at like how do muscles function or how do bones form or whatever, that we've got just a basic understanding about tissues and cells and things like that. And some of the terminology stuff is really helpful too, just in learning this new language that we're doing. So, let's check this out. All right. Okay, so here we go. Introduction to the human body. I think it's very interesting that we're giving this to you 2 weeks into the class and that it's chapter 18 in your textbook. I would think Introduction to the Human Body would be chapter 1. But some of the stuff we threw out to you guys in the beginning was to get you massaging in lab. Because ultimately nobody asked you what grade you got in school. Nobody asked to see your diploma. They know in 5 minutes whether your massage is good or not. So really everything comes down to that. Does this information make your massage better? Are we practicing massage, practicing massage, practicing massage? So we wanted to get you in the lab immediately. Okay. So let's talk about some terms that you should know. I've underlined things that might be of interest for your career, things that might be of interest for your quiz and test, things like that. Anatomy is the study of parts, really. Anatomy is the study of parts. Physiology is really the study of what those parts do. So anatomy is kind of like if I have a car, anatomy is the understanding that there is a starter in that car. Physiology is the understanding that that starter actually turns the engine over. Anatomy is the understanding that there is a water pump in the car. Physiology is the understanding that the water pump is meant to pump water through the engine to cool down the engine so it doesn't overheat. So anatomy is really the study of parts, right? You can know where the biceps brachii is and not know what it does. That's anatomy, right? Physiology is what those parts do. So you know that I have a heart, I hope, right here. I have a heart here. That's anatomy. Knowing that it pumps blood through my body, that's physiology. Cool? And homeostasis. Homeostasis is something that you will hear a lot about. And it is something that your body does automatically to try to keep you in a very narrow range of temperature, chemical balances, all sorts of stuff to keep you alive. So bodies are actually quite amazing. And while your appendicular skeletal system, your appendages can get quite cold or hot, they can vary by 20 degrees easily, either direction. If that happens to your core temperature, if your core temperature changes more than about 7 degrees, 5, it just depends. You die. It's over. That's my core temperature. In fact, quite often your hands are getting hot or cold in order to dissipate heat from your core temperature or retain heat in your core temperature. The other thing is you guys are really, honestly, we all are, a big sack of fluid-filled chemicals. And every time you dump something in your mouth, your body has to rebalance what you're doing to that chemistry of this big soup. And if your salt, potassium, all sorts of stuff in your body is off by any amount, any great amount, you die there too. And of course, we don't just go walking around dying all the time, thank God, because our bodies are amazing at homeostasis. Even when we do really stupid stuff, like eat the entire chocolate cake or have 7 shots at the bar or whatever, in general, our body is able to be like, this guy's an idiot. We're going to rebalance this stuff. Mine probably more than anybody's. So anyway, but that's the beautiful thing it does. If it ever doesn't do that, it's not good. But that's homeostasis, is your body's desire to get back into a state of balance. If the room gets hot, it tries to cool you off in a very simple sense. All that kind of stuff. That's homeostasis. And your body's brilliant at it. Absolutely brilliant at it. There are some things you can do to help it. Drinking water helps because it gives you something that not only can cool you off through sweat if you need it, but also if you have too much salt in your body or something like that, you now have water in you that can dilute it and eliminate it. So within reason, things like drinking lots of water is good for you. You actually can drink too much water, but you have to work at it. But it can be done. We're going to talk a little bit about medical terminology. Roots, prefixes, suffixes. You don't need to remember what a root, a prefix, or a suffix is. Just remember this. They are parts of words that change other words. They are parts of words that change other words, and a lot of the roots we're going to be studying in prefixes and suffixes are Latin. And so they will help us to interpret some of the anatomy that we're looking at. And we'll get to those. We're getting to those. So there is something they teach you in every biology class that's, I think it's super simple, but it's so super simple I think it kind of throws people off. And they call it levels of organization. And what they want you to understand is how matter, little bits of microscopic stuff, make up a body. And what they want you to realize is there are elements, and by elements they mean atoms. Hydrogen, oxygen, right? Atoms. And they want you to realize that that's kind of how it all starts. And if you combine atoms together, like 2 oxygen molecules, you get O2. If you throw a hydrogen on there, you get water. Wait, H2O. No, sorry, if you throw 2 hydrogens on there and you only have 1 oxygen, you get water. I just made a new chemical. But if you combine atoms together, you get chemicals. If you take chemicals together, you can make something called organelles. Organelles, simply put, are organs of a cell. And if you put some organelles together, you've got a cell. And if you put a whole bunch of cells together, if you put a whole bunch of skin cells together, you get skin. If you put a whole bunch of muscle cells together, you get muscles. So groups of cells together make tissue. Groups of various tissues make organs, your organs. Hearts and lungs and livers and kidneys and spleens and pancreases. If you get a whole bunch of organs working together, you get an organ system. And you put a whole bunch of organ systems together, you get an organism, which is you, me. And that's called levels of organization. It's biology 101. It's not really going to change your massage career. But it's important to kind of realize there's this stacking that goes on. So let me say all this in just a slightly different way, too, just so we have some context. From a biological point of view, from the science of biology, a cell is the most basic living unit of life. And they define life by things that can consume products, eliminate them, grow, and multiply. And cells can do all those things. In a very real sense, cells are like little people. I realize they don't go to massage school and whatever, but they can do all the things you can do. They can eat. They don't eat the way you do, but they truly do eat. They poop and pee, not the way you do, but they really do. They can reproduce, not the way you do, but they really do. And they can build other things too, other proteins that your body uses and things like that. So a cell really is this living thing. You provide an environment actually for those cells to live in and help keep them alive by you maintaining homeostasis. You keep all the cells in your body happy. And when you eat, you're not really eating for you, you're eating to feed your cells. And all that keeps them happy. Conversely, they repay the favor by keeping you alive. They make sure to make your muscles and your bones and all that kind of stuff and make it all work. So it really is this kind of big cooperative, tribe of cells inside your body that has decided to be you. Anyway, cells are the most basic unit of life. If we look at how cells are made, elements make chemicals, chemicals make organelles, little cell organs, and those come together to make cells. Once you've got living cells, you can put a whole group of them together to get tissue. A whole bunch of muscular cells make a muscle. You take a whole bunch of tissues and you can make an organ. You can take that muscle and make a heart out of cardiac muscle. And you take a whole bunch of stuff together like the heart system, the lung system, and a whole bunch of other systems. Those are organ systems. You put a whole bunch of those together and you've got a body. You've got all the things it takes to make you operate. Kind of make sense? Okay. Miss Carrillo, please.
So I wasn't really good in biology. What career path I chose.
You're going to be fine.
I just want to make sure I wrote it, like just some key points. So the groups of various cells, the groups of cells make tissue, and groups of tissue can either make organs, organ tissues can make organs, and like muscle tissues make muscle. Is that what?
Sure. Yeah. And bone tissue can make bone. Look at it this way. If I get a bone, by the way, this is not chemically accurate, but let's say I've got some hydrogen atoms, oxygen atoms, potassium atoms, sodium atoms, a couple other things. I can put those together and make some chemicals. I can put those chemicals together and make some little organelles. I can put those together and make a little living cell, and this one's going to be a bone cell. If I put a whole bunch of bone cells together, I've got bone tissue. I know we think of tissue as like skin, but it's bone tissue. It's bone. And then those bones can be, well, sorry, they can't make an organ out of bones. That was a very bad example. I don't know why I picked that. Let's take the one that I should not have picked. But if I have a muscular cell, yes, I can put it together and I have muscle. Let's say I have a cardiac muscular cell. It's a particular type of muscular cell. Just one is just a cell. It's a little cardiac cell. But if I put a whole bunch together, I've got cardiac tissue. Well, if I shape that cardiac tissue into a big 4-chambered pump, I've got a heart. And the heart is an organ. Now, by itself, it's not very good, but if I hook that heart up to a whole bunch of tubes, I've got a system. Well, if I combine that heart system with the lung system, I've got something that can pick up air from the outside and get it to the rest of my body. And if I put some other systems in there, like digestive systems, all that other stuff, I can make a body. I hope that helped. Forget about the bone part. Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Hendrickson.
I was wondering if, so chemicals make up organelles, right? So
Yeah.
are there going to be the same, do the different pieces of the cell have the same chemical makeup no matter what kind of cell it is, or do they have different? Like, for example, mitochondria is made up of like a certain type of chemicals, right? Would that be the same in a brain cell as it is in a bone cell, or would
Yes.
the chemical makeup be different?
In general, the organelles are made up of roughly the same stuff. In general, what differentiates cells is the DNA that they're reading that tells them to produce certain proteins and things like that. So I'm trying to think of a really good example. In general, we all live in homes, but they all look different depending on what the homeowner tries to do to make their home look a certain way. So cells follow different instructions inside that tend to make them act differently outside. But you're right, the basic building blocks, at least for animal cells, is the same. Same chemicals and such, yeah. Yeah. So, and by the way, guys, we're not going to go deep into biology. Don't worry. Like Miss Korea, do not worry. This is about as deep as we get. We're going to talk a little bit about the organelles in a cell. This is, by the way, levels of organization. Pretty picture. Got atoms coming together, make chemicals, making molecules, making protein filaments and things like that are tiny organs for cells. You put a whole bunch of cells together, you get tissues. Here's a heart. Here's a whole bunch of different systems of the body, and here's a person. Miss Clayton, please.
I don't see your screen if you're presenting. It says you're presenting, but I don't see your screen.
Am I pinned to your screen? Because sometimes when you pin me to your screen, it'll stop.
Yeah.
Maybe you should unpin me, and you'll see what I'm presenting.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Does that help?
I'm trying to figure out how to unpin you.
I think if you have to click on my picture, and there's a pin, there's actually like a push pin looking thing. Click on that. I think it'll undo it, maybe. Am I telling her the right thing, by the way, everybody? I saw Miss Creel nod.
Oh, there.
She's my
There we go.
person.
Okay,
Cool.
I got it. Thank
It
you.
worked. Good. Cool, we know. Awesome. Okay, moving right along. So I already said this. You don't have to write all this down. Cells are the smallest form of life, smallest functioning unit of life. That doesn't mean they'd survive on their own out there, everybody. But of course, we wouldn't either, by the way. We need shelter too. You are kind of the shelter for your cells, and your house is the shelter for you. But they are a basic building block of life, and they actually need a lot of the same things that we need. And that's because actually all the things we need are really to take care of ourselves. We're going to talk about some of the parts of a cell, and we will never talk about this again, to be very honest with you, because cellular biology doesn't really affect our daily massage stuff. But we want you to have enough understanding that when we look at muscles and stuff later, you're at least like, oh, those are made up of cells. So when I talk about cell muscles, you at least understand conceptually what I'm talking about. Cells, remember I said they're just like you? They have skin around them, but it's not called skin, it's called a cell membrane. And just like you, by the way, that membrane is semi-permeable. You guys have stuff come out of your skin all the time. We call it sweat. And in that sweat, there's other stuff in there. But you have stuff, and by the way, stuff can enter, it doesn't usually, but stuff can go through your skin too, into you. But so cells have a cell membrane. Then they're filled with something called cytoplasm, which is like a gel on the inside where all the nutrients are and all their organelles are, and all the chemicals that they use to produce other things. Cells are a little factory in there. And then cells have organelles in them. In this cytoplasm, inside this cell membrane is all this cytoplasm, and inside that cytoplasm, that jelly, are organelles. And one of the things you find, one of the organelles that you find in, well, I think all animal cells actually, is what's called cytoskeleton. And it is kind of like your skeleton. You wouldn't recognize it if you saw it that way, but it is filaments in there that are literally meant to help keep the cell structure. Because the cell's kind of a water balloon, and you don't want it to collapse and such. And so the cytoskeleton are kind of like floating little rebar in there that helps give the cell some structure. That really is their job. And it's kind of like a skeleton. It's a stretch, but it is. And it's called the cytoskeleton. You've got more organelles. You've got endoplasmic reticulum. You don't have to worry about this, but it helps transport proteins through your cell. There's actually rough and smooth. They transport different types of things through your cell. You've got something called the Golgi body, which helps to transport things the cell has made out of the cell. So your cells produce lots of protein that you need in other parts of your body, and they really do produce it inside the cell. Then the Golgi body helps get it out of the cell into your bloodstream. It goes around your body until another cell picks it up. Kind of cool. Most important to remember about a cell, because it ties into sports physiology and it ties into massage. Most important thing to remember about a cell is the mitochondria. Everybody calls mitochondria the powerhouse of the cell. If you say that to anybody who's taken biology, they'll know instantly what you mean, because the mitochondria is the place that produces ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and it is fuel in your body. You use it as fuel in your body. It really is gasoline in your body. The mitochondria actually produces this. And it produces this energy that then the cell and other cells in your body, but this cell too, can use to do work. Nothing gets done in this world without using energy. And the mitochondria of a cell actually does that. Some very interesting things about mitochondria DNA. I don't want to insult anybody, by the way. If you don't believe in evolution, that's fine. This is an evolution-based theory. Your cells have DNA in them, right? It's what tells your cells to make more of that cell, and it's what makes me look like I look, and what makes Miss Everson look the way she does, and what makes Miss Creel look the way she does. That's DNA. Mitochondria has its own DNA, separate from the cell. And so and it comes, by the way, it comes from the mother's side, the mitochondria. So whereas I am a combination of my mother and father, my mitochondria is not a combination of my mother and father. It comes only from my mother. Yes. So, in fact, if you ever hear about somebody who has a mitochondrial-based genetic disease, they're very hard to deal with because you can't breed them out of somebody. It doesn't matter who they make a baby with. If there's a problem in the mitochondria of the woman, she's going to give that mitochondria to the baby. There is no way around that. So mitochondrial-based genetic diseases are very, very challenging. So what's very interesting is if you're into like family trees and stuff, right, you can look at your DNA and you can go online now and you can mail off some saliva and they can tell you that you're part whatever and all this kind of stuff, and you can trace your origins back and things like that. But they are looking at your parental DNA. They are looking at your main cellular DNA, and it's coming from both your parents, and each of your parents, it came from both their parents forever and ever and ever. Mitochondrial DNA only comes from the mom. And so what's very, very interesting is that when they trace back mitochondrial DNA, everybody's related. It all traces back because it's all going through mothers and their mothers. And if you trace it back tens of thousands of years, it all traces back to one person in Africa. We are all extremely, extremely related. And that's what's kind of fascinating about mitochondrial DNA, is that theoretically all the mitochondrial DNA came from the same original mother at some point. That's a mother of a mother. Yeah. Anyway, mitochondrial DNA. Lysosomes. Lysosomes are, I always remember Lysol. They go around your cell and they break down bits of stuff that shouldn't be in there. They also break down bits of stuff the cell's not using anymore, and they kind of take these Lego parts apart so they can be expelled out of the cell or utilized to make something new. Centrioles are fibers that are used in cell division. Not important to know at all. I don't mean it's not important that cells divide. It's just not going to affect us. And then, of course, the nucleus really is the brain of the cell. It is the place that actually contains your DNA and RNA, which is your genetic code of life. And the nucleus actually helps interpret the DNA and RNA and tells the cell what to do. Just to give you some context, it's as though the nucleus is a computer with an empty hard drive, nothing in it. And the RNA and DNA is like a thumb drive that somebody plugs into it. And a virus is just a packet of DNA that actually invades itself into a cell and inserts itself into the nucleus and tells it to produce more of that code instead of its own code. It's kind of fascinating. So a virus actually hijacks a cell and convinces it to produce more virus. And the cell's like, okay, I guess we're a virus producing cell now. It reads the DNA and follows the instructions. So very, 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 very true. It hacks our body. That's exactly what it does. You're absolutely right. Here's a typical cell, although I don't know if there's such a thing as a typical cell, but anyway, this has all the parts in it. Quickly memorize this or it'll be a no, there's not a test. Don't worry at all. You guys all have this in your book. Okay. Of course, in every biology class, they taught you about how does stuff get in and out of this cell, because stuff does have to get in and out of this cell or it will die. If stuff doesn't get in it, it can't make ATP, it can't build proteins, it can't repair walls, it can't produce stuff for you. If stuff doesn't get out of it, debris builds up and eventually it'll die in its own debris. Just like if you couldn't go to the bathroom, you would eventually die. So there are different types of ways that stuff moves through a cell. There's diffusion, and diffusion is actually something that you guys are actually very familiar with. Diffusion is why your mom or dad says, close the door, we're not trying to cool down all of Phoenix, right? So I used to have a very funny friend who was like, close the door, I know there's global warming, but this is not going to help. Like our air conditioner is not going to take care of that. And the reason they want you to close the door is what happens naturally is things of high concentration move to low concentration until they're equal, right? If it's cold inside your house and hot outside, you open the door, eventually both areas will be the same temperature. That's diffusion. When you put sugar or salt in your drink, it doesn't just taste sugary or salty in one part, it eventually diffuses through the whole thing evenly. Concentrations eventually equalize, and that just happens automatically. Osmosis is using, osmosis is the same kind of concept in a way. It is stuff moving from one area to another, but it's moving the opposite direction. Osmosis uses filtering systems and things like that to make that occur, and usually has other things driving the process. It does, I'm not trying to poo-poo on biology, all this stuff is very fascinating, but it doesn't quite tie into what we're doing. I just want you to realize stuff moves through cell membranes, back and forth, that they really can take in stuff and eliminate stuff. And then filtration is the use of water to actually move stuff across cell membranes, usually by, yes, usually by pressure. Just saw Osmosis Jones, yeah. We're not getting into all that. Thank goodness. We're not getting into that too. Be glad. Yes, Miss Hendrickson.
What process or function of the cell is not working properly when there's cancer?
Oh, actually, the problem with cancer is the cell is working too well. It's very interesting. I think we think of disease as something as broken because I think we think of the body mechanically like our car, and I'm like, oh, something broke, right? I'm got to go to the doctor, I'm broken. That's not usually the case. Usually the case is things are running too fast or too slow and they are out of balance. And cancer is when a cell has gone crazy and is making too much of itself and growing out of control.
That's because of like genetic mutations, right?
Yeah, usually it's because something in the cell is telling it to keep going no matter what. It doesn't have it doesn't have the good, yeah, it's growing out of control. It doesn't have the stops on it to stop it from doing more than is good. Because too much of anything is not good. But they really are. They really are a growing thing. That's why they're like, oh my gosh, it's a cancerous growth. All cancer is a growth, yeah. And you guys all have cancer in your body right now, not to freak you out. But what happens is your immune system keeps it in check, and even your own cells sometimes keep it in check. Your cells do a really neat thing where they're like, something's wrong here, and we're growing really fast, and we know that's bad, and they put up a thing that says, you should kill us. And other cells come along and take them out. And it's kind of a cool self-sacrifice thing they do. So when things are working well, there are things to kind of catch these things that are going wrong. And it's one of the cool things about massage and about sleep too, by the way, is there's loads of evidence to suggest that just relaxing and resting turns on your cancer fighting mechanism. So when you are always on the go and stressed out, your body's like, it's not a good time to work on my immune system right now and fight cancer. We gotta fight some dragon that's in our head.
Mode. Yeah.
Yeah, and so actually, I mean, I really believe this. I'm not trying to be all, I don't know. I'm not trying to be all like, oh, we're saving lives, but I actually really believe that as a massage therapist, you will save people's lives. You'll just never know you did. And not because you did some incredible massage move, but more because you brought them into a room and they calmed down and their body went into rest and regenerate mode, and it started taking care of the little bits of cancer around there and had to take care of and kind of kept these viruses at bay. And we'll never know, but you're saving lives. And that belief is based in science because we know that stress kills. We know the exact opposite kills. And this is why sleep is so important. Everybody's like, oh, I'll sleep when I die. No, you'll die from not sleeping. You will sleep when you die, but it really is like one of the number one things you can do, because when you're sleeping at night, that's when everything gets repaired. If you talk to a bodybuilder, there's some unhealthy things about bodybuilding, but they sure know about how to feed their body so it grows. And a bodybuilder will tell you, they go to the gym and stimulate, they work really hard, but after that point, it's rest. They'll tell you, don't stand when you can sit, don't sit when you can lay down, don't lay down when you can sleep. So, yes, they do a lot of sleeping actually. Not that they don't work hard, they do a lot of sleeping. Miss Carrillo, please.
I just wanted to say, my personal trainer, who also was in bodybuilding, he said he really loved Dragon Ball Z. He's like, all I do is train, eat, and sleep. That's all we do. That's all we do is bodybuilding.
Yep. Because when he's at the gym, he's just stimulating his muscle. He's actually tearing it down. He knows that when he sleeps, that's when he grows. And so, yeah, like professional bodybuilders, we always see pictures of them at the gym. That's just 2 hours of the day. The rest of the day, they're as lazy as they can be because that's when they're growing. Yep. And that's exactly right, Miss Creo. They eat and eat and eat and eat and sleep. I bet it gets old after a while. It takes a lot of dedication for that reason. It's true. Thank you. Okay. We don't really need to get into transport pumps. Transport pumps and vesicles are just ways that, again, things get through your cellular membrane. The reason I'm glossing over this every minute and being like, oh, you don't need to know that, is it won't later help us understand muscles and bones and things like that. I just want you to know that there's cells and that they can reproduce and they need nutrition and all that kind of stuff. They essentially need all the stuff you need. And we don't need this either. Sorry, guys. Let's move on. All right, this is important. So remember we said that these atoms make molecules, and these molecules can make organelles, these organelles can make cells. And then we said groups of cells can make tissue. There are 4 main types of tissue in your body. Only 4. Epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous. Epithelial tissue lines the cavities of your body. You can think of it as skin. It's all over everything. So it lines the insides and outsides of areas of your body. It's called epithelial tissue. It really is designed to line, coat, seal areas off. There's connective tissue. Connective tissue is the most abundant because it's all fascia. It's not really all fascia, but connective tissue is the most abundant, and that's why fascia is everywhere. There's all sorts of other types of connective tissue too that we will talk about. But tendons, ligaments, aponeuroses, retinaculum, superficial fascia, deep fascia, all that stuff is connective tissue. And we're later even going to find that your blood is connective tissue. It has a matrix in it that we'll get to later. And then of course you have nervous tissue, and it doesn't mean that it's had too much coffee. It's the tissue that actually makes up your nervous system. It's conductive. It'll actually carry signals and chemical signals and electrical signals, and it eventually will make up the wiring of your body. And those are the only 4 kinds of tissue there are. Yeah. Cool. Let's, we've been going a while here. Let's take a break till 10:01, okay? Take a break, 10:01, catch your breath, all that good stuff that exist and multiply and all that kind of stuff. And then we said you take a group of cells together and you can make tissue, and you take a group of tissues together, you can make an organ, and a whole bunch of organs working together can be an organ system, and a whole bunch of organ systems together can make a person or a dog, right? And then we talked a little bit about the fact that stuff has to get in and out of membranes through cells, which we will not need to know anything about beyond the test from today or tomorrow. And then we said, hey, now we kind of understand that tissues are groups of like cells together. They really are. And then we said, hey, there's 4 main types of tissues. Can anybody here tell me the 4 main types of tissues that I just said? Is anybody taking notes? Miss Hendrickson? Boom. You raised your hand.
I think I got it. So there's epithelial, connective, nervous, and sorry, I forgot this one.
That's all right, because Mr. Overman's going to tell us the last one.
Muscle.
Muscle, yeah. So very good though. Epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. Miss Everson, yes. You have your hand. Oh, was that an accident? She's like, yeah, just ignore me. Okay. I know you got like 7 devices. She's like, I don't. Yeah. Different ones for different things. All right, cool. Hold on, let me share this with you again. We as massage therapists will be dealing with all this tissue, but most especially we're going to be dealing with connective, muscular, and nervous. We care about connections between neuromuscular connections, which is your brain talking to your muscles and sensors in your body talking back to your brain. We care about your muscles because we're massage therapists. We care about connective tissue, which is, by the way, wrapped around every single muscle fiber, every single bone, every single nervous wire, because connective tissue actually gives you the long-standing structure of your body. So we're not just rubbing muscles, we're actually stretching and expanding connective tissue, very much so in massage, especially in deeper forms of massage. So those are the 4 main tissue types. That'll tie into other stuff that we're doing later, and that is a good thing to know. The 4 tissue types is a good thing for any massage therapist to know. Epithelial, connective, muscular, and nervous. We've already seen cross sections of a leg. Only thing I want to point out to you guys again is notice that veins, arteries, and nerves like to travel together, which makes sense. I already kind of explained, just like when you're doing construction on a road, why don't you, if you're going to dig a trench, you're going to lay down all of the stuff that you need to lay down in that one trench, and it's the same thing in your body as well. Okay. So, Ms. Hendrickson, please.
Oh, I just had a thought about like stem cells. Like, say if you were pregnant and you had the placenta and the umbilical cord, that would be a different type of tissue, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So stem cells, in theory, if you want to look at it through stem cells, there's only one type of tissue. Stem cells have the capability of turning into any type of cell they want. So not in theory, they do. Stem cells could turn into cardiac cells and become a heart. They can turn into skeletal cells and become your biceps. They can turn into bone cells and become your bone. They could turn into liver cells. They can turn into nose cells, eyeball cells, toe cells, anything. What happens when we normally grow from little babies is we all start out with stem cells. They differentiate and become certain specialized cells, kind of like you guys going to school. You're going to specialize in massage, and so you might not be good at other things because you put all this time into massage. And your cells do that too. So once stem cells become cardiac cells, one of the hundreds of types of cells they can become, then the cardiac cells seem to only be able to make more cardiac cells. They stop having that ability to change and make anything. There's probably good reasons for this. You don't want your cardiac cells making other stuff besides cardiac cells because you don't want a bone growing on your heart. So there's some good safety mechanisms to that too. But yes,
They're all set by the time you're born, though.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know if they're set, but I think they're set before you're born, but I actually don't know the time. But yes, once I think this all happens in the womb. They migrate to certain areas of the body, and then they decide we're always going to be finger cells, essentially. And then they're very good at making more of those, but that's it. And some cells, the reason people are really into stem cells is for a myriad of reasons, but one is nerve cells don't seem to repair very well, and even nerve cells don't make other nerve cells as well, or don't make them in a way that repairs. And if you put stem cells in there, they do. They're like, oh, we can become nerve cells and we can fix this nerve. And so people are really fascinated with it, with things like paralysis and such. Could we repair nerves with them? And by the way, there's lots of other things, but that's just one of the really big things they're interested in. But you're right. The four main tissues all came from stem cells originally and then went off. And by the way, of those four main tissues, all those cells specialized even further. So
I'm just nerding out.
yeah. No, it's an important nerding out thing. It's a good point to make. So all of these cells, though, whether they're stem cells or the four cells, the four main tissue types that we talked about, they all, like I said, have to eat, and they all need nutrients, and they cannot walk over to the refrigerator and get food from there, like you can, hopefully. They have to get food very much like a plant gets food, by what's around them. And so your cells exist in flower beds of water. It's not a flower bed, I know, but my point is they exist in a water medium throughout your body. All your cells do. And when they need stuff, they literally have to kind of pull it in through osmosis, through diffusion, through filtration, into their cell, through the cell wall. And when they're done with stuff too, they have to push it out through the cell wall. So the fluid between your cells is called interstitial fluid. Remember, inter means between. Interstate transport, between states. Interstitial fluid is the water around your cells. One of the really good things that massage does is to kind of move interstitial fluid along your body and to kind of flush it out and bring new fluid in. Just me squeezing an area tends to squeeze out interstitial fluid, and then new fluid flush comes back in. Now that's going on all the time. My heart brings new fluid all the time, but it helps to really kind of flush out these what I'm calling flower beds. And the reason I'm calling that is because it's almost as though your heart is irrigating fields of tissue, and it's not like you have arteries going to every single cell. They don't have a pipe coming in the cell where blood comes in. No, the blood gets dumped out around the cell. And that becomes interstitial fluid at that point. And the cell has to grab its nutrients from the available watery substance around it, which is interstitial fluid. So interstitial fluid hopefully is full of stuff the cell can eat. It's also full of stuff that the cell has spilled back out again that has to be taken somewhere, cleaned up, something. Miss Clayton, please.
Can you explain the difference between diffusion and osmosis? Because when I read it in the textbook, it sounds almost identical. So I'm a bit confused.
Oh gosh, so am I. So diffusion, the biggest difference is this. It's very complicated how it works, but the biggest difference is this. Diffusion works from areas of high concentration to low, which kind of makes sense in our brains. So if my room is really cold and I open it up it's very I got a high concentration of coldness there. It's very natural for it to just want to go out of the room. So osmosis actually works in the opposite direction. And so it's a much more complicated process, but osmosis goes from low concentration to high. So it goes in the opposite direction, and I'm sorry, go ahead and say, you gonna say something?
Oh, no, that makes sense. It's
Okay.
high concentration to low versus low to high. Okay.
That's-
I wasn't reading that.
Yes.
correctly, So that's why.
Yes.
Thank you.
So that's like the second day of biology explanation. I want to warn you. I mean, it's 100% correct what I told you, but how it does that is a whole other discussion. But anyway, that's why it's different. That's why it's different.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So thank you for asking, by the way. So interstitial fluid is something massage therapists care a lot about because the health of your interstitial fluid is essentially the health of your cells. So yes, your cells have fluid inside them. They're like a body, but the interstitial fluid is what they have available to eat. And it's also the place where they go to the bathroom, right? They don't really go to the bathroom, but it's a place where they throw out their good stuff they're making and also any waste products they have is in the interstitial fluid. Your circulatory system later picks this stuff up. But I just want to be very clear that it's almost like your cells are little plants and you're watering them with interstitial fluid and they get their nutrients from the water around them. Yeah. Ms. Hendrickson, please.
So is it the lymphatic system that takes that fluid and then filters it into like waste product and usable stuff?
The lymphatic system is part of that process. It takes about 10% of it away. The circulatory system is also part of that process. It takes the other 90% away. And the circulatory system brings 100% of the stuff back to it. Like the water got there in the first place. And by the way, we'll get into this more later, but when we talk about plasma, lymph, blood, all of that stuff, once it's out of the veins and arteries and it's in between the cells, they just call it interstitial fluid. So interstitial fluid is all that stuff. In fact,
Is it all blended together there?
what?
It's all like blended together in those spaces between the cells?
Yes, I mean, yes, but actually what's really more true is that we name the interstitial fluid depending on what vessel it gets into. So if it gets picked up by a lymph vessel, all of a sudden we call it lymph. If it gets picked up by a capillary going to a vein, we call it blood again. Yes. So. Okay, interstitial fluid. Don't forget that. It's what waters your cells. Yeah. Yep. And when you push on your muscles with a theracane, then what you do is you push out little bits of fluid from areas because it's sponge-like. And then what happens is more interstitial fluid flushes back in, and it actually helps to give the cells kind of new stuff to feed on and get rid of old debris. So just that process alone can be very effective. We are not going to get into embryonic tissues. Sorry, it's just not important at all. All right, remember we said there's 4 tissue types? By the way, I apologize. This is a lot of me talking and stuff like that. We're almost done for today. And you do not have a lot of homework tonight. So I don't want you sitting here the whole time being like, oh my God, he's talked for 2.5 hours and he's going to give me 4 hours of homework. For once, that's not true. All right, so you have 4 types of tissues. We said epithelial, muscular, nervous, and connective tissue. Epithelial lines and covers structures. You can think of it like skin. So it is the top layer that covers everything in your body, and it helps provide protection, and helps to divide organs up in your body, actually, to keep them separate from one another. Yes, Ms. Carrillo?
Because epi usually means on top, right?
Yes. So epidermis is your top layer of skin. Epithelial is this top layer of tissue that covers everything. So of course you've got a top to your liver, and of course you've even got a top to the inside of your body. Like inside my rib cage, there's a top on the inside, and it's all lined with epithelial tissue. Yeah. And by the way, some of the epithelial tissue in your body, its job is to kind of stay lubricated and let other tissue slide by it, so all your organs and things like that don't stick to one another. And we will get into that more later too. But that's epithelial tissue. We don't have to get into the classifications of it at all. Thank goodness. Then I said the most abundant tissue in your body is connective tissue, connective tissue, connective tissue. And types of connective tissue. Oh, sir, you need a pen? Sorry, my teacher didn't come to school with a pen. What kind of teacher are you? Every teacher's got a pen. I sleep with my pen. Jeez, I'm sorry. That's your lab instructor later. I hope it's okay.
He's an old guy.
He's an old guy. Yeah. He's probably trying to do it on a stone tablet or something. Okay, so connective tissue, there is 4 types. Fibrous, bone, cartilage, liquid. Forget that. Forget that. What makes connective tissue essentially, yes, what makes connective tissue is it has a matrix. That's what makes it connective tissue. There are fibers running through it, and it makes a matrix. And so some people will say, well, Tapscott, you said blood is connective tissue, it's the liquid type. What kind of matrix does blood have in it? Right? It doesn't have a matrix in it. Well, cut yourself right now, not on an artery, some small place, and watch the blood pool out, and then watch what it does. And look at it as it does it. Look at it under a not even a microscope, just a magnifying glass. You'll see that it's got these kind of like hair-like projections that as it starts to dry, makes a scab. So you can't see the matrix when it's wet, but the matrix is there. When it dries, the matrix is there. And what does it do? It connects to seal up the hole that you just cut into yourself because your teacher told you to and you didn't think that was a bad idea. Okay? So connective tissue is connective tissue because there's a matrix. Usually a matrix of fibers in it that helps it connect. I don't care that it's bone, cartilage. I mean, I care because it's out throughout our body and I told you everything's fascia. But just remember fascia and tendons and ligaments and even bone, I said, have a matrix in them that then might be filled in by other stuff, but it's a matrix. That's the point. It's a fibrous matrix. Yes, Ms. Carrillo.
So when you describe the cut and everything, and we can't see it when it's wet, but we can see it when it's dry, are you describing like a scab?
Yes, I'm so sorry. That was the important part to that. Yes, that was the important part to that story. I'm describing a scab. And like, I don't want to get really, actually I love getting really gross, but you guys probably don't want me to get really gross. But if you ever picked a scab off and you kind of play with it or something, you know, and it's fibrous. It's got fiber in it. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of flexible but kind of tough. Yeah, so a scab. Yes, very much so. Cool. That's connective tissue. Yes, Miss Clayton.
Is what makes it flexible the collagen and elastin?
Yeah, especially the elastin. Yeah, and also what makes it flexible, by the way, is just that it is fibers. Just like my shirt is flexible, right? It's woven together fibers. It's very strong, but it's still flexible. That's what's nice about connective tissue. Connective tissue is always fibers, usually in some other type of substance, some type of ground substance. And that's why even scabs, again, they're not completely dry, right? They've got a little bit of moisture in them. That's what kind of adds. So it's fibers inside a gel-like medium. Yeah. And very much, by the way, guys, this is a very good example of why connective tissue can seem so different. It can be almost like water at one point, and then it can also be almost, you know, like a scar. It can be really hard, like a scab. And so blood and a scab are 2 examples of 2 different states that connective tissue is there. All the stuff was in the blood that needed to make the scab. It's just that it had a higher water content. And as that water content goes away and it coagulates and glues together, those fibers come together like that. It's kind of cool you have self-sealing bodies. It's very, very helpful. Yeah, not going to do that. Boom. Okay. By the way, once we finish, we got 2 more tissues to do, and then I'm going to release homework, and then we're going to be done, and it'll be fine. And like I said, it's small. So we are talking still about connective tissue. Cartilage is one of the types of connective tissue, and there's some interesting types of cartilage that you should know about because massage therapists care about them. And one is called hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is a beautiful cartilage that is super smooth, kind of bluish, and it goes over the ends of your bones. And it's there to help your bones not slide on it's there to help them slide on each other. It's there to help keep them from grinding on each other. When somebody says, oh yeah, Miss Clayton talked about this actually, her knee being bone on bone, her knees rubbed together long enough that the hyaline cartilage went away. And then she had bone on bone, and then that's really painful. Even hyaline cartilage directly on hyaline cartilage, if it's pushing too hard, can be painful. But that stuff is super slick, and it's meant to slide over itself. And when you have problems inside the joint, sometimes the hyaline cartilage can kind of die and wear away, and that's a problem. But hyaline cartilage is cartilage that goes over bones. We care about it because it's inside synovial joints. It's over the ends of every bone that's in a synovial joint to help them slide over each other. Very tough, very strong stuff, and very slick. Fibrocartilage. Yes, Ms. Carrillo, please.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Is that what causes things like? Oh no, wait, that's something else. Never mind.
Okay, yeah. Don't be sorry, guys. Don't be sorry. I want engaged students. I'd rather questions than not. Always. Fibrocartilage is a very strong cartilage that's found between your discs and your vertebra. Your discs and your back. Every last one of those has really tough cartilage between them, really, really hard. But it's very strong and durable. And you find it between your vertebrae. You find it in your knees too, things like that. And then we all have some cartilage we're very familiar with, which is elastic cartilage. And that's why I can take my nose and push it way over here, and it will probably pop back, and my ears and all that kind of stuff. Those are full of elastic cartilage. It's actually not as strong, but it's nice and it's flexible and it pops back. It'd be too soft for your vertebra and stuff like that. Is it okay to work around herniated discs? Excellent question. Ms. Everson, yes, it is. So, the biggest problem working around herniated discs is the client's perception of you working around the herniated disc. Clients assume that, oh, I've got a herniated disc, so somehow you're going to hit it when you massage. You can't. I don't think it can be done. I think you'd kill them if you did. I mean, not because of the disc there. The disc is so protected by the back that you can't hit the herniated disc with a massage of any pressure. So essentially it's okay. Now, there are some exceptions, but you're not going to make it worse. Basically, you're probably not going to make it worse. But some people come in and they're so worried because they got pain down there and what they've been told, and they're imagining this disc sticking out their back and that you're going to hit it, that they're like, don't get down by that disc. And you need to respect that because you're going to upset them. And I've even had people with that condition where I wanted to work closer and closer to it. And so over the course of multiple massages, we kind of got closer and closer until they realized we could work it. But again, it's my job to suggest the client move in a direction I think is helpful. It's not my job to tell them. They're paying me. So be careful about that. It's really more about their perception. The one thing I will tell you is if you are working down by a herniated disc and they get referred pain, that means you're pressing on their back, but they feel pain in their knee. You're pressing on their back, they feel pain in their neck. That means that you're still not hitting the disc, but that means the pressure you are putting on there because of their herniated disc is causing the nerve to pinch more, and that's why they're getting referred pain, and that means you're probably irritating the nerve more and making it worse. So in that sense, if they're getting referred pain, you should stop just that area. You could probably move a half a centimeter away and be fine. You still have not hit the disc, but you have put pressure on a disc that's already bulging, and somehow it's making it press on the nerve more. So referred pain, when you are working on a back, is not a good thing. That's a really good thing to remember. Referred pain is not a good thing. If, however, Ms. Everson, you're working on my herniated disc and my low back, and I'm like, it's around L5, S1, which is right above my sacrum, and you're working on my back, and I say, hey, I've got pain going down my leg, that means you need to change what you're doing because you're pinching on the nerve. But if I say, oh gosh, that kind of is a real deep ache right there in my back where you're pressing, great, that's fine. Localized pain in that area, believe it or not, is fine. That's the tight muscles and stuff there. And as long as I'm okay with it, you should be okay with it. And most people are. Most people are like, it hurts, but it feels good because that area is so tight, they love it. So again, local pain, good. Referred pain, bad. If the spot, if you press here and it hurts here, that is great. If you press here and it hurts here, stop pressing here. Move a little bit over. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Miss Hendrickson.
The hard part of your nose, is that fibrocartilage?
No, the hard part, like way up high here, that's bone.
Oh, I thought there wasn't any bone in your nose.
There is some bone right up here. I mean, it depends on what we're defining as your nose, but there is some bone in your nose.
Oh.
Yeah. The stuff you can wiggle is elastic cartilage. Yeah. I got you. But once you get to the part that won't move anymore, there's bone right there. Yeah.
That's not, is it attached to the skull? Or?
Yeah, it's part of the skull. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and
So whenever I see a skull, like an empty skull, it always has the hole where the
It does,
nose is.
but if you'll look, there's a little slope coming down right here.
Oh.
There's a start of a nose.
So like there's bone over here and then like cartilage in the middle.
Yeah, there's actually a cartilage strip that comes right off that, right here. It's top of my nose. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Good stuff. I already said this, blood is liquid connective tissue. That's all you need to know. Let's talk about muscle really quick. We're going to get through the 4 types of tissue. That's what we're doing. So, muscle tissue. There are 3 types of muscle tissue. This is just overview stuff. We will do this again. There are 3 types of muscle tissue: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. You only find cardiac muscle tissue in one place. Where is that? Thank you, Mr. Overman. Yes. You only find it in your heart, everybody. So you'll never touch cardiac muscle tissue. Maybe with your words and your kind eyes, but not your hands. So you'll never touch it, which is why I don't talk about it a lot. We do care about the circulatory system. Don't get me wrong, but we're not going to go into gory detail about cardiac muscle tissue for that reason. Smooth muscle tissue lines like the tubes of my esophagus and inside my organs and through my intestines and all that kind of stuff. So we're not going to deal with that a lot either. You will never touch that stuff either. That's smooth muscle, and usually it's used around things to expand or contract or move stuff through tubes in your body. The stuff we are going to study lots and lots of is skeletal muscle tissue. Anything that attaches 2 bones together is skeletal muscle tissue. And that stuff all of it contracts. All muscle only does one thing, which is contract. But we care about skeletal muscle tissue because this is the stuff that produces movement and posture. And last but not least, but last for today, yes, Ms. Carrillo, please.
I think Miss Everson had a question in the chat.
Oh, thank you, because I did not see it, yes. Ms. Everson had a question in the chat. Let me go to the chat, hold on. Does it alleviate pain or promote healing of the herniated disc by bringing water to the area? Yeah! Do you mean does massage alleviate pain and promote healing by bringing? Yes. I mean, it's not just water, right? It's all the nutrients that are in that water and all that plasma and all that blood you're bringing to it. But yes, yeah, we really are water babies. We're made of water. We're sacks and sacks and sacks around water. And bringing new water to that area helps keep it supple. It brings new nutrients in so that because if the cells there want to repair, they can't repair if they don't have stuff to eat to use to repair and stuff. So absolutely, that is kind of, in massage very much, we're playing a fluid game. We're trying to get fluids moving, very much so. Thank you, Ms. Correa. Okay, nervous tissue. The main stuff we care about is your brain is made out of nervous tissue. It's got a huge bundle of wires. It's not one, it's a huge bundle of wires going down, which is your spinal cord, and those bundles break off into smaller bundles called nerve plexes, remember? And they all run out and become my peripheral nervous system and go to every single square millimeter of my body. Much smaller than that, actually. And all nerve tissue has the characteristic of being excitable and conductive. And what that means is it can actually conduct electricity, a signal through it, and it can be set off too. It's ready to be fired. It's excitable. In fact, you can overexcite it to some point where it won't fire for a while and it has to kind of recharge. But anyway, it has that ability. So it's a live wire ready to be set off. And we will study that more when we get to the nervous system. And I think that's it. We don't have to get into this yet. Yes, we're going to stop right there. This is a perfect place to stop. Ms. Clayton, please, what is your question?
So in the book, on page 349, it says that the arteries and the veins are made up of all tissue types. Is that accurate?
Arteries and veins are made up of all tissue types. I disagree with that. I would say it was made up of 3 of the 4. I don't know how they're getting nervous tissue in there. Oh, maybe because the smooth... Okay, yeah, I can see what they're saying. All right, let me explain what I think they mean. It's actually a really interesting statement. I should read the book more often. So your arteries and veins will have epithelial tissue, right? Lining them and over the tops of them on the insides and out, right? Because that's what epithelial tissue is. It has smooth muscle around it, so it's got muscle around them that allows your arteries and veins to contract and open up. It's kind of neat because your body doesn't always want the plumbing to carry as much blood or too much blood. It controls your temperature that way and all sorts of stuff. So you've got epithelial muscular tissue there for sure. You've got connective tissue around them for sure too. That's actually what smooth muscle lets them contract, but muscle, believe it or not, is not strong. It's really, really tender. So it's like filet mignon. Filet mignon doesn't have a lot of connective tissue in it, which is why you can sometimes cut it with a fork. You don't want your arteries to be like that. You want them to be really strong. So you've got epithelial tissue, you've got muscular tissue to let it expand and contract, and then you've got connective tissue to make the pipe strong. And I suspect the part I wasn't thinking about was muscle doesn't work unless you give it a signal. So there's got to be nervous tissue going to it to tell it to expand or contract. And that's where the nervous tissue kicks in. So yeah, it's a great example. Thank you for teaching me something. Yeah, I actually never, I don't know, I don't remember reading that, and I never thought about that part. Yeah. Okay, do we have any other questions? You have, no? You have one teeny tiny homework assignment for tonight, which is good. I'm releasing it right now. Give me a second because your guys are in 3 different classes. The assignment is number 11, quiz, MT18 terminology. I believe it is 9 questions, so it is not a lot. Did somebody ask a question out there? I heard a, no? All right. Well, let me get to the last one here. And again, you might have to refresh your stuff to see it. Hold on. And I think you might be able to take it right now. I'm sure hoping you can. There we go. Due tomorrow morning, like everything, at 8 a.m. But it is one little 9-question quiz. I think it's 9 questions. And that's it. Mr. Richards, please.
I got really confused about the homework last night because obviously in the trail guide you use the image and you do A, B, C, D. So I put her on the group chat on WhatsApp. I was like, where's the image? I need the image. And Mrs. Hendrickson's like, it's not that book. You have to go to the questions at the end. So I got totally confused.
Oh, you're talking about not for the trail guide, for the chapter questions.
Yes.
And there's nothing there, and you just have it. Really, you're right. You're right. And kind of lazy teaching on our part. We're saying answer it in the back of the book and transcribe it so we can grade it. Yes. Yes.
But confusing because we've been doing the trail guide, so there's an image.
Yeah.
And then you've got
Oh yeah.
alphabet.
But we did those at the beginning of class. We started with the other book, and we did. You forgot, huh?
I forgot.
Well, that's good. That's why you're here, is for us to repeat and learn. Yeah, I love it. Miss Everson, yes. Are you gonna? Everybody else, you should be able to see your homework right now. Please feel free to work on it. I can't see that. Hold on, let me pin you for a second. Hold on. Now, give me a second. Web page not available. Web page. What's the YouTube thing? Lecture. There's the lecture. Good. Go back to assignments. It's assignment 11, but it's not the lecture. It's 11 quiz. I feel like I'm going to be very good at reading lips after we're done working together. And remember last time it took it a while just to refresh on your phone. I don't know why. You trying something else? I'll wait. Yeah, I'm sorry, Miss Everson, but I'd give it a minute just because it seemed to take that time last time. I can also, hold on, one other idea. Hold on. Oh, good. Let's do. Miss Everson, I can put a link. This will not work for everybody, by the way. Only works for people in Miss Everson's class, her lab. But Miss Everson, I put a link in the thing in the chat thing, and on your computer, it should take you right there. I can also email that link to you. That is the link for the assignment, which I think is going to show up in a minute anyway. But I can email you that link too. That's good. We're good. Or email. No, okay. Cool. Let me know. All right, guys. Keep working till 11. I'm here. Yell if you need me. All that good stuff.